Many fans of Baldur's Gate 3, myself included, are hungry for more news, so I'm going to try and roll high on my persuasion checks and get some information out of Larian's own Sven Vincke. Sven, how you doing?
Hi, Dave. Very fine.
So how would you describe the current state of Baldur's Gate 3?
Every time we're silent, that usually means we're busy with something. So we're busy with something. It's taking a little bit longer than we expected. But the next update is around the corner. I'm not going to give you the exact date because otherwise I would have to stick to it. But we're trying to push it out of the door. So it's an update that focuses on a lot of the feedback that we've been getting. So it's more focused on features than it is on new content. But it's got a lot of new things in there, which I hope are going to be well received. It certainly addresses a bunch of the things that we've been reading on the Reddit forums, Steam community forums, and so forth. So that's pretty much what's going on.
So the last major update was back in February of this year with the Druid being added. What has your team learned since then?
So there's obviously, we are working on what's in early access, and we're also working on the rest of the game, trying to get it finished eventually at some point. Big things that we're learning from the players is onboarding is a big thing. So we need to work harder on the onboarding. So we're doing a lot of stuff. Some of it will actually be in the next update also, to roll players into what is it like to play, what does advantage mean, those kind of things. So it's not just tutorials, it's also really a whole bunch of things. There's really a lot to it, and by the time you will see the finished game, you will see everything that we've done in that direction. You'll understand what I'm talking about. So I'm being a bit vague about it, but cool stuff. So there's certainly things that make the game better. Combat remains a core focus point for us. We are getting feedback that certain players are not finding what they're looking for. So we're trying to work on that, trying stuff out. A lot of iteration, a lot of things that work, don't work. So some of them are also coming that we're adding. Combat, dominantly the problem is that the tabletop system, certain things don't translate well to the video game. So this is the bit that we're working on. We have a lot of ideas, but they take time to try out. They're not that far off into the future also for us to release them on the community and see what they think.
So based on this, are you making big changes to systems that are already in the game?
We are, actually. You can certainly expect certain things to be turned around if we think it's necessary, if we see players not finding themselves in there. The biggest problem we have right now is we see a lot of players that focus on the melee classes, and they don't have enough things to do as they progress. And that has, to a certain extent, the limitations of the video game is there, because when you're playing at the tabletop, you can come up with crazy ideas, or your DM can help you figure out crazy ideas of things that are beyond what would be your basic actions. And so putting that in the game, because we're a company that focuses on systems, so we want everything that goes in there as a system. Yeah, it's not so easy. But it's something that we're working on. Like an example of a system that does work well, even for the melee classes, actually even better for the melee classes, would be shoving people, right? Throwing is also something that works well. It's a system you can throw pretty much everything that you can see if you're strong enough, etc. So those things work well, and they augment the action choices that melee classes, especially in the beginning of the game, because that's where actually the core problem lies. Especially in the beginning, it gives them more things to do, and we find that a lot of players come here and they've played Original Sin. They don't find the same type of gameplay back, and they want to be able to do more things than they would expect than you can do in D&D. And so we're trying to figure out solutions to this. This is not a criticism of D&D. D&D, the fighter class, is the tutorial class. So at the tabletop, it is used to teach you how to play. But as a result, it gives you limited things from the get-go to work with. And modern audience is a little bit our own fault, because we educated them like this with Divinity. Expect to be able to do things that matter very rapidly. So we need to teach them this is not that type of game, it's different. But that doesn't mean that you can't do really cool stuff. And so we have to figure out ways of communicating that, because that's why I mentioned onboarding also. There's a bunch of things that you can actually do, but that are not necessarily clear, and maybe with a little bit of better user experience, we can fix those.
So in terms of content being added to the game, can you give us any hints whatsoever to what you're working on?
Yes, it's going to be more extensive than any of the things that we've done so far. So there's going to be things that people would expect that maybe not necessarily part of the next update are going to be coming down the line eventually. It takes us a lot of time to make these. It's because we are getting further and further in development. So we have much more things that we have to take into account now as we add stuff. So it's a bit slower, but we do have things that are cooking, which I think will be very welcomed once we're going to release them. So a little bit of patience is going to be necessary there. Our productivity is lower than it used to be. So we have obviously, like everybody else, we've been affected by the crisis. But there's still a lot of work being done. There's a lot of stuff happening. And when it's all going to land, I think it's going to make the game a lot better.
If you keep up with the pattern of each update being bigger than the last, you're going to hit critical mass of what you can put out at some point, surely.
That's when we'll release, right? That's, we're really trying to get the game done by next year. It's not going to release this year for sure. But we're working very hard on getting everything in there. But it's a very big game, and it deserves to have development time. So, and every single feature, there are features that you're going to see in the next update that you didn't expect. That you say, why are they doing this? And then when you'll play it, you'll start understanding, oh, this is why they're doing it. Or maybe it'll tie into something that comes later. But we're taking really a lot of time to polish these features, to put it through QA already before we release it to community. So we already have our initial rounds of feedback, so that we really, when it gets in players' hands, when we get the feedback, hopefully it's good. And if it's something that we overlooked, we can still react to it. And it takes time. That's the only thing I can say. It's like you can't. The cooking is slow, but there's a lot of meat that's really good when you cook it for a very long time.
So in terms of Baldur's Gate 3 leaving early access, a full release, is 2020 just ballpark what you're aiming for?
We would be happy if we can manage to release it next year, yes. I mean, like, we're aiming for it. That's no guarantees. But we're definitely aiming for it. I mean, like, we took a big setback, especially in everything that was related to motion capture and voice acting during the crisis. So that has taken time. Also, teams working together is harder. But now, slowly, hopefully, the world is getting in a better place. We are starting to be able to pick up speed again. And so, but we still have a lot of work. Like, it's not as if we're done yet. And it's a big game.
On what I assume is a very long to-do list when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3. Last time we spoke, we didn't have the new generation of consoles in your hand. Is bringing Baldur's Gate 3 to Xbox Series X and PS5 something that you're working towards?
You'll have to roll a d20 on that.
I've got a d20 if you want me to roll it. I can grab it right now. Yeah. Shall I give it a go? Does a 19 hit?
Right now. Can you pass guidance?
I can't re-roll or anything. I've got like a +2 to persuasion. Does that help?
Man, like, I wish you had our next update in your hands already, and you might have done something about it.
So the fans miss seeing you in armor, and you usually bust one out for big things like a panel from hell. Is there a panel from hell 3 in the works?
I'm actually dying to put it on again. It's 33 degrees Celsius over here, so I guess that translates into Fahrenheit. I don't know what. I mean, like, there's going to be at some point a new panel from hell. The plans that we have for that one are very, very special. Big takeaway on this is, like, it's not because we're silent that we're not doing anything, but we are trying to focus on finishing stuff. And so that typically comes with some silence, which is not necessarily what community wants to hear, but it's the best way of doing things. Otherwise, you don't get them done.
The difference between Divinity Original Sin 2 in early access and then full release was mammoth. Is that sort of going to be the same vibe when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3's eventual release? Is it going to be worlds different from what we've played now? Is there going to be giant leaps forward that we can feel as players?
Yes. So I think there's 2 quantum jumps that are going to be the case with BG3. The first one is people that started it up when they got early access on day 1. And so when they'll see it at release, they will be very surprised because there's so much stuff that will have incrementally improved during early access. But we're also keeping certain surprises for the ending. For the release itself. So it will be, I hope, a big step up and a positive one that will be welcomed by everybody. Because we do have a bunch of stuff up our sleeves, even if we've had some leaks. Then the second quantum jump, which should be the final update, and then the release version. So that's certainly the intention of what we're trying to do. But I mean, like the difference between BG3 and DOS is that this game is vastly more complex to make. It is in every aspect much more ambitious in everything that it covers. So when we'll pull it all together and we'll actually pull off releasing it, I would already be happy if it didn't have to do that quantum jump, and that's going to come on top of it. So it's going to be quite a thing.
Something very core to Dungeons and Dragons, and something that DOS 2 had, was the Dungeon Master mode. You've not really spoken about it much in the past. Is that something you can talk on now?
No, because we honestly we don't have it in development. Everybody asks us that question, but we are so focused on making the game itself, and it's such a beast to develop that the company has more than tripled in size to make BG3, and even then, if you look at the recruitment page, you see there's plenty of jobs openings, and this is just because it's so hungry as a game, and every single asset is being delivered at such a high level of quality that we just don't have the room at this point. It's and obviously this would be a setting which would really benefit from it, right? For us, really, the thing that matters is getting the game done, getting it finished, so that when you play it and when you replay it, or when you talk to your friends about it, you hear, hey, but my adventure was completely different. And you're going to say, yes, of course, silly, it's because you made different decisions. So that's really what we're trying to build. And that's quite the endeavor for already.
So is the Dungeon Master mode something you might look at doing post-release, or?
Honestly, everybody right now is focused on just getting BG3 done. The fact that is still on an uncertain horizon in the future tells you how much work we still have. And if you see how we've grown, how much people are working at Larian passionately on it, it also tells you exactly how much it is. If this were original sin, it was done already. We made 2 original sins already with the amount of stuff that we're putting in there. So it's just and it's not that it's that much longer in content, it's just that the permutations and the intensity with which each little minute of gameplay is being worked on is so high. And the ambitions of the team, they're super passionate about it. So there's so much love that they're putting into it and trying to. I like beaches in my games, right? So when you play so I often start up on the beach because it's the beginning of Act 1 once you've skipped the tutorial. And that beach keeps on getting better. Every single time I look at that beach, when you look at the early access beach, day 1 and now, that beach is so much better. And I know it's coming, so that beach is going to be so much better still. And it's just the beach. There's actually a big surprise on the beach in the next updates, I can tell you that. Depending on the choice that you made in the tutorial, which has changes and so forth. So, and those things, and when you look at it, you'll wonder, well, why would they do all the effort of putting that in there? And that's, it makes sense, and there's all the players that ask for it, so why won't we put it in there? And when you see what it is, you say, okay, but the ramifications of this are pretty large. And yes, they are pretty large, so we'll put it through the entire game. And so this is and then when you play it and that's what you discover, you say, hey, I'm happy that somebody cared enough about this particular path to see it to finition, so that's all there. Just me and the other 2 people in the world will see this, but we're happy that somebody cared about doing this. And that's the bit where all the intent and the effort goes into, and things that you will never see. But when you see them, you're happy that somebody put love and care into them.
People are going to go back to that starter beach now and try to figure out what exactly you're teasing here.
Well, they'll know. They'll figure it out. Well, they'll figure it out. I mean, it's maybe on the next time when we chat, you ask me, okay, well, you remember when you said that? And then I'll tell you exactly how many permutations this thing cost. So the list and the documents, the amount of meetings, because I was present at a couple of them, and the amount of people that were really working on it for a long time just to make this possible is like every single time we use. This is the thing with this game, you're always surprised by how much work every single thing is, just because of this approach that we're taking with it and trying to sustain it cinematically also throughout the entire thing, right? So it's it's an amazing thing. The minute-to-minute gameplay that in an RPG done in the way that we're doing it takes a lot of effort, and you don't want to compromise on it because you're doing the cinematics, which is the thing that people forget. Because it's much easier if you make an RPG like we used to make, and just adding a couple of lines. Hey, here's a new branch in the dialogue. Let's just go and put it in there. No, now it needs the entire enchilada that comes with putting it cinematically in there. And in multiplayer, in single player, depending on which characters, which party member composition, and so forth and so forth. But we're taking that step, and I'm very happy every single time when I see it. I said, okay, I'm really happy that they spend time on doing this. Like this, it feels good, but it is. I keep on repeating it because it is a lot of work.
So it's been a while since you've had the community's ear, but you've got it now. You've got the floor. Is there anything you want to say to your hungry fans?
It would be hang in there. We are passionate about making this a really, really good game, a really good RPG that we can be very proud of, and that you are going to love playing, and that is going to respect your choices as a player. But to be able to deliver that, we need time. I know that there's a lot of people that are impatient and they want us to, but we can't just cram out the content like that. We do need. For content that we can be proud of, we need time to iterate over it, and we don't want to present it just like here's a bunch of grinding quests, go and fetch me 5 shoelaces so that you can we're never going to do that. But that takes time to do it the other way, and so hang in there.
Honestly, I think the most thing I see on the Baldur's Gate 3 subreddit is just wanting you in armor again anyway. But hopefully it won't be too long now until we can see both you in armor and more of Baldur's Gate 3. Until then, everyone at home, for more Baldur's Gate 3 news and updates, whenever we can get them, make sure you subscribe to GameSpot.